We gathered on March 25th, 2023 to celebrate a local legend, Dr. Captain Claude R Platte. We gathered at the American Legion, Post 838, there on Mansfield Highway in Fort Worth, Texas.
God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, God who has brought us thus far on our way, God who has by thy might led us into the light.
In honor of Women's History Month, we will have a living historian bring greetings in a letter. Major Charity Adams of the 6th AAA Central Postal Battalion, which was the only unit of African American women to serve overseas in World War II.
Proverbs 22:4. Humility and fear of the Lord are riches and honor and life. Acts chapter 2, verses 1. And when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all with one accord in one place. Amen. Now, would you please stand for me, with me, for the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may take your seat.
Some good officers, white officers, early on when they started, didn't have any black officers. They were all white officers. Most of these white officers came from the South and were ex-Civil War. Need I say any more? Officers. Again, you read it for yourself, and you know all that come to you. But there were a couple of soldiers who were extremely good soldiers, white soldiers who were over these soldiers. How many of y'all look at see John Rain in the Heart Soldiers program on TV? Probably didn't know that he portrays Colonel Grissom. I have a picture in the history of Colonel Grissom back there. Was one of the first officers who taught these Buffalo soldiers. He not only taught them how to soldier, he taught them assimilation into society. I mean, he looked at them like they were his children, treated them like they were his children. And that's really his legacy, because he has no other children alive, even though he and his wife fathered 7 children, all of them deceased. But the Buffalo soldiers, as we know, lives on today. The officers back down a few ranks. So he came down to a colonel. It took him 20 years before he made the journey. And he only made it then because he was going to retire. He treated not only the black soldiers fairly and equitable, but he believed in treating the Native Americans the same way. They were talking as opposed to shooting first. The story of the soldiers, what you will want to pay attention to, as I said, is the history the true history of these soldiers, the tenacity that they displayed, and even though the inequities that's going on today was nothing like what was going on back then, and yet they became the best of the best. In fact, they got many Medal of Honors, and they opened up the Southwest, whole Southwest part of the United States. They opened it up. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
If you ever see a buffalo soldier, will you do this for me? Will you shake the hand of the buffalo soldier and say thank you, buffalo soldier?
Vice President of the Claude Platte DFW, Mr. Stevie Earle.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for coming out. I extend greetings to you from the national chapter of the Tuskegee Airmen, our President Jerry Burton, also from our local chapter, the Claude R Platte chapter, Mr. Gordon Guillory sends and extends his greeting to you as coming out for this birthday celebration, along with the Claude R Platte family. We extend you greetings in coming here. Some time ago, when we used to do what we call fly-ins. Some of you Air Force folks know what fly-ins are. And we were just individuals in the DFW area that had a passion for World War II history, specifically the Tuskegee Airmen. And we would get sponsorship, and we'd fly in as many Tuskegee Airmen as we could for the community to connect with and to learn about their history. And we would do this at the Joint Reserve Base, we would do this at the Frontiers of Flight, and we would do it once every 2 years, sometimes annually. And it was a seasonal thing. We would get together along with Tanya. Sometimes we met over her house. And one day, Mr. Claude R Platte, Captain Claude Platte, said, "Why are you guys doing this and not making a cohesive effort to get the word out?" He said, "Why don't you organize and join the national chapters?" So with that being said, we started the meeting, and we came up and asked what it takes to join the national chapters. It's over 50 chapters, by the way, of Tuskegee Airmen nationwide. There are 3 in Texas, in San Antonio, and I believe one is Houston is still active. And they indicated to us what we had to do, and we started about the tasking of doing it. While meeting, we looked at each other, and one of the things on the paperwork said, what is going to be the nomenclature? Some of you Army folks and military know what nomenclature is. What would be the name of your chapter? We kind of looked around, and we all said at once, Claude R Platte, chapter of the DFW. We stuck DFW on there so they know what location we are. So we come around and we met and we became a chapter back in 2005, and we'll come up on our 20th anniversary. I want to send out an invitation to everyone that's here. As Paul mentioned, there's a united effort to wipe out the history, African American history. And you've seen it across the nation. It hadn't taken, well, you see some efforts in the state of Texas, but I want to invite you to join us. One of our missions as this chapter is to get the word out. we go out and do presentations, do briefings, similar to what Paul did, talking about the Buffalo soldiers. We do that for the schools. We've done it for organizations. We've done it for HOAs. We've done it before Juneteenth celebrations. We've done it for school, churches even, that we've done it for. So I want to invite you to become active in doing this. We have a tasking that's heavy on our hearts. A lot of you may know that there's a Tuskegee Airmen home that's going up near the VA. And we've been tasked to assist in putting up an exhibit with the Tuskegee Airmen. So if you want to be a part of that, or if you have some items that you want to exhibit that we may not know about, connect with me. I'll be back in the back. And that's going to be, they may be opening in 2024. So the Tuskegee Airmen State Home. It's going to be Campus Drive at 820. If you don't know about it, just talk to me in the back. Lastly, again, thank you. And I'm going to leave you with what Mr. Platte stated during his 90th birthday that we had at TCU. Some of you were there. And he said, I'll be John Brown. And some of you don't know who John Brown is. Well, come back to the back and ask me and I'll look him up. But that was his saying. One more thing about, and this is some education, as Popeye used to say. On the base, there's a street named after the Tuskegee Airmen. Did you know that? Naval Air Station has a street named after the Tuskegee Airmen. Guess who did that? It just don't happen. Mr. Platte and his effort going out to the base. Get a street named after the Tuskegee Airmen. I will leave that and bid you to the next speaker.
Meet Mr. McDaniel over at I Am Carroll, and I asked him, Mr. McDaniel, why didn't we as students didn't know that you were a Tuskegee Airman? He said at the time the principal told him that don't bring that over here. And I said, Mr. McDaniel, you might have inspired some of us to be pilots. I finished I Am Carroll in '61, went to Prairie View 3.5 years, wanted to buy a car. I dropped out during the Vietnam War. Big mistake. I did 1 year in Vietnam. I was a paratrooper. I was in the infantry. When I got to Vietnam, they said anybody that know how to build stuff, well, y'all won't have to go to online. Well, I stayed in the rear for a long time and got bored. And I said, well, if I have a son, what would I tell him I did during the war? So I volunteered to go to the line. And it was an experience that's hard to talk about sometimes. But I made it. Thank you.
I was supposed to say something today. With that being said, Stepping Into Destiny is an artist studio here in Fort Worth that Mrs. Platte is our founder. She and her cousin, James Weisner, were our original founders. The Starks was instrumental in the resurrection of Stepping Into Destiny. And that's when I came along. By the way, since I use that word, I'll just say, today is my birthday. Since I was a part of the resurrection. And I have to recognize that my mother said I was born on an Easter Sunday. That's why it's keyed my mind. But when I looked it up, March 24th, which is my recorded birthday, was actually a Saturday.
And I was born in Florida, in the country, where in our culture, a day begins when you see the sun. So that meant that I was born when it was dark, from 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. That's enough for the sidewalk. Stepping into Destiny is an organization that is helping young people that have creative skills, whether there be musical skills, as Mr. J over here, whether they write like Dr. Marie, or whether they are visual artists. Ms. Platte was all of that. And so we do the best that we can to identify those people and give them an opportunity to come forth and step into their true destiny of what God has gifted them with and bring it and share it. So thank you very much, Ms. Starks, for this opportunity to introduce a part of Mr. Platte. And by the way, Mr. Platte, being the husband of Miss Platte, he did paint pictures periodically.
What really motivated me to do this painting was Miss Irma Platte. It's unfortunate that she's not here because she saw it. She was like one of the first people to see it when we were during the pandemic. So right now she wasn't really walking at the time, but she had enough strength to come to the actual show that I had in Arlington. And man, just anyway, that's what motivated me to do the painting. I never had the opportunity to meet Mr. Platte, so that's just about it. You know, of course, she told me a lot of stories.
I'm so glad to be here in the warm climate. I'm coming from Minnesota. And the weather is, well, yesterday check was 35. But we live in the below, 15 below and all. But I'm glad to be here. You know, I just want to give Ms. Starks a hand. Can we just give her a hand? She worked so hard, and I was just watched her since I've been here. And she's just running here and there. Of course, y'all all know that, right? Yeah. All right. But I'm here to introduce my organization. It's a nonprofit. It's called Crossroads Panorama, which is youth education through the arts. And we empower young people to be successful through the arts with many art programs that we do, combined with drama therapy, educational, and participatory activities that they do. Some of our plays that we do, it helps the young people to mirror themselves, mirror their lives, and come to grips with their lives. And, you know, we get them on the road to accomplishing their goals. You know, they're thriving and working through these plays, and as they're rehearsing, they are finding a lot about themselves. Because potential, you know, potential, and I always say this, a writer said, potential is the sum, S-U-M, of who you are that's not yet been revealed. It's a deposit that waits to be revealed and maximized. Unless you reach higher and go, I use this as a tool to talk to the kids, and they talk to him and encourage him. And then they said, have you talked to Mr. Oak? Mr. Oak is a elderly tree that helps Cherrywood through the process of what he's going through, because it keeps coming to his mind. And children, a lot of times, they have things stuffed inside of them. You don't know what's going on and why they act the way they do. But approach it in a way, maybe to ask some questions, so show some love. They begin to talk and share. And so, like I said, I do a lot of drama therapy to mirror people's lives, but I also write the stories. So you can get a lot of these books on Amazon. I got about 5 of these books. I think it's 4 of them. I lost track because I got another one coming out. But you know, and so then what happened after that? And also, okay, let me just back up a little bit. We have the coloring book also, so the kids can write and do some activities in the book, you know, and have that time to share with each other. This is the newest thing. I had no idea of making this, I'll tell you, believe it or not. But it came to me last year. And the Cherrywood is speaking. It's for, you know, you can use this if you're a therapist or whatever agency you're with. It helps you. It helps the children. You can do play therapy. The children cuddle it, but it has a sound.
Mr. Oak.
Y'all.
Don't worry. Things will work out.
How are you doing today?
There's a breathing exercise there, you know, on here to calm the kids. So if you're interested in learn more about it, then I can talk to you at the back of the table. I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to share.
Jerome Lee, so I will say my maiden last name to honor my father, something I learned in the few moments I was sitting in the ceremony. I have a recent transplant to Texas, and just very big on legacy. I was privileged to do an appraisal, which is what I'm trained to do by profession. I'm a professional antiques and decorative arts appraiser. I was honored to appraise some memorabilia from the Tuskegee Airmen that went into the new museum in Washington, D.C. And so I've just been so privileged in my move to this region to learn about the rich history and legacy that comes from Texas. And so, number one, I wanted to thank all of those who have served in the military for your service. And I thank you all for coming out this afternoon to celebrate the legacy, the proud legacy that we as a people have in this country. And let's be mindful of the 12 freedoms that we gained, the legacy of this rich community. And please remember that it is so important to share the legacy with the generations behind us so that these legacies are not forgotten. So let's take a moment to bow our heads and thank the Lord for this time.
I came to Fort Worth and I got involved. I kind of got involved and I started working with kids and everything. They said poetry and all that. I could do poetry. I was just poetry. While sitting in classes and making passes, Uncle Sam interrupted my day. He said, "Come with me, brother, and I'll teach you another game that you can play. This is your weapon, this is your gun. One is for killing, one is for fun." I found a new kind of love, especially for my brother, because when push came to shove, we only had each other. Conflict. You see, I fought for life, liberty, and mom's apple pie. Now you fight for closed cars and the way to get high. Whoa, man, brother. What happened to me and you? Was the change in us, or the red, the white, and the blue? Okay. Conflict. Oh, yeah. Just a little angry black man poetry. I was introduced to Claude and Captain Pratt. And me and the captain got along because I know how to handle officers. Oh yeah, just let them talk. Then you go do it, then you go get the job done. Because that's what a non-conflict is. But when you look at, this is a historical perspective, and a quick historical perspective is, you've got to look at the way the world was, how the world was shaped. Because see, when the Tuskegee Airmen finished, they had crew over 1,500 missions. I mean, 1,500 sorties. I keep saying sorties and missions. I get them mixed up. I want to make sure. They're 1,500 sorties. Sorties is just like you fly to work, you know. But they flew 15,583 combat missions. Out of 15,583 combat missions, 179 were bomber escorts. They say they never lost a bomb. All right. But one thing that they did make note of is that the percentages for the bombers that made it through during that era was running at 46%. They went in and it never went above 29. Overnight, they changed the game. They changed the game because a fellow by the name of Benjamin O. Davis. Claude knew Benjamin. He knew Benjamin. He did. They knew each other, and they actually helped to change the whole tactic. The tactic that I'm an Air Force guy. That's why I know a lot of this. The tactic that they were using was when they would go up, they would see the bombers would be around, the fighters would be around the bombers, they would go up, they would see the enemy coming, and they would peel off to fight the enemy. And then some more bad guys attack. One of the red tails, one reason the bombers love the red tails is because the red tails never left. No matter how many of them showed up, they stayed there and they fought. They stayed there and they fought. And they found out that that tactic was better than trying to meet them and then do a dog fight. The red tail changed the whole game. Now a lot of people don't realize, but 774 air medals were given to the red tails. 3 presidential citations, 150 distinguished service crosses, 14 bronze medals, 1 silver star, and 8 purple hearts, and 32 of them were POWs. That's right, everybody didn't come home. My veterans out there know it. They know people that didn't come home. Claude came home. Claude knew he was going to be an airman. He knew he was going to be a sky guy. He loved airplanes from the very beginning. The famous story that they tell about him is about how when he was a little boy, they say he was out in the yard one day and he heard a plane, here goes that airplane, he out there. That reminds me when I was a little boy, I'll never forget, I thought I could fly because I tied a tie around my neck climbing on the Only thing I learned that day, the big mama was fast. I didn't see her. Where'd that switch come from? I just knew. She said, "Boy, get down." Next thing I know, I was getting that one. But Claude did that. He did that. He wanted to fly. He wanted to fly, and he told his mom and his dad he wanted to fly. But they was like, "Okay, yeah, whatever." But he did. He was intentional to fly. And then one day he got in trouble because he sneaked down to Mitchell Field. Now he was actually born in Denison, Texas. They moved from Denison to Fort Worth. And when they moved to Fort Worth, they came to the south side because that was where we lived. They came to the south side. And so what ended up happening was, one day he told him about how he wanted to play, and he looked up that man, he was right in that pilot's face, and he made up his mind he was going to see some more. So when wasn't nobody looking, he knew the field. They always used to have the airport, the air show out at Mitchell Field. Then started having it in Carswell for a while, then they moved it back to Mitchell Field. And so while he was at Mitchell Field, and he actually left, and he walked all the way to see those airplanes. He told me that. I said, "Man, you didn't walk." He said, "Yes, I did." I said, "You couldn't walk that far." He said, "I can't walk to the bathroom." I said, "Me either." And so it was wonderful. He knew that. He knew that. And one of the things that a lot of people don't realize, they say the Tuskegee Airmen, the idea of the Tuskegee Airmen drop out of the sky came with what they call the Civilian Pilot Training Program. World War II was on the heels. World War II was coming. That was inevitable. And that's when the president and his wife, Eleanor, especially Eleanor, because Eleanor she was very open-minded, and she was one of those who was on the forefront of rights for black people. Eleanor Roosevelt was the one that said, "Hey, look here, in this civilian, this thing, you're going to make the pilots, why can't some of them be black?"
All right. Yeah. There you go.
So they picked out 6 black schools. We only talk about Tuskegee, but there was actually 6. Hampton, Howard, Morris Brown, Tuskegee, West Virginia, and Delaware. The West Virginia State School for Colors and the Delaware Colored University. All of them was training. It was going to be set up to train black pilots. But they were all colored schools. Tuskegee was the best known because it had old Booker T. Washington and George Carver was going there. They was working. And
That was all he needed. There are 6 guiding principles being what's called the Tuskegee Airman. Aim high. Claude aimed high from the time he was this big. Believe in yourself. He believed in himself even though he walked around, he seen color signs that said water fountain, colors only. He believed in himself. You have to believe in yourself to walk and hustle and always dream. He put together model plans. Use your brain. Like I said, he was at school before all this even started. He graduated. He's getting ready to graduate. He's going to do something else. You got to be ready to go. He was ready to go on December 7th because on December 7th, it wasn't long after that, he stopped being a quote-unquote contractor, or a member of the ROTC, and became active duty. You never quit. That's one of the things he taught the Tuskegee Airmen, you never quit. And you expect to win. Because if you lay down and get a good night's sleep, I'll guarantee you, when you wake up, you'll be taller than you were.
March 19th, 2023. Dear Captain Platte, it's my pleasure to reach from heaven's glory and salute you in March of 2023. We did it, Captain Platte. The 332nd and the 6888 did their part in the Double V campaign. We fought to overcome Nazism and racism. We got victory over mindsets and mouths that said African Americans are not smart enough, courageous enough, or physically fit enough. Captain, we had different assignments in different places, but we did our part to fight these enemies with excellence. Now your unit was ordered to train military pilots. You alone, sir, trained over 300 in their first solo military flight. You, Captain, walked like a warrior with excellence, courage, and you became the first African American officer to be trained and commissioned in the newly reopened Air Force pilot training program there in Randolph Air Force Base, Texas. And then, if that wasn't enough, in the spring of 2005, you, sir, decided to locate and document Tuskegee Airmen in the DFW area. You got your team together and you worked together and helped to continue the legend in the DFW territory. You founded, sir, the Claude R Platte Dallas-Fort Worth Tuskegee Airmen chapter. In the words of our dearly loved Dr. Hazel Harvey Peace, you, sir, are to be commended. Happy birthday, Captain. Yours very kindly, Major Charity Adams, the first African American woman to be commissioned in the United States Army.
Was to interview Mr. Claude Platte since I was military. Mr. Platte denied me an interview for, I don't know, 16 to 20 times. I would call, he's not available, would say his wife. He is not available. Finally, after the 17th time, little rascal who is painfully shy to come out and tell you whatever you want. So I came over, and here it is. You caught me. And thus began, I don't know, 12, 14, 15 years of having an opportunity to be able to sit with a legend. All right. Mr. Platte, we having a fly-in at your birthday party. Get ready. Get set. Fly!
Father God, we just thank you for the blessings of creativity and freedom that you've given us as a people, for courage to step forth and do the unimaginable and the unthinkable, to put your excellence on display, God. Father God, I just pray that each family represented here would be mindful of the legacy that we all share in God, and that we would make a point to be intentional about the legacy that we want to leave for the generations coming behind us. We thank you for the legacy of Claude Platte. We thank you for the legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen. And we thank you for the freedoms that we have in this country, and let us not take them for granted. I just ask a blessing upon all those who are here and their families, and we just thank you for your loving kindness upon us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
As I remember and celebrate the birthday of Captain Claude R Platte, I remember how he introduced me to another Tuskegee Airman by the name of Robert T. McDaniel. Robert Tennyson McDaniel shared his story with me that they began to move the 477th to Freedman. But there was one time in our history when 101 black men stood as one. I'll never forget those words. And this year I wanted to do a ceremony in honor of the unity, the oneness that the 477th unit of the Tuskegee Airmen manifested.
That 101 blacks stood together.